we're joined by Catherine King. We had to pre-record this interview because she's now in the cabinet, obviously, with Kevin Rudd. She's the regional Australian minister, and I asked her a short time ago if it was a daunting time after I congratulated her.
Thank you very much for the congratulations. And look, I am really looking forward to, frankly, taking it up to Tony Abbott. I think we have spent way too much time in the Federal Parliamentary Labor Party in dissent and talking about ourselves. There's been a lot of us in seats all over the country who have been wanting to get on with talking about policy, and I frankly think the Australian community is absolutely sick of the negative politics and our infighting, and I'm pretty much looking forward to the opportunity of actually, winning the election, fighting for the election and fighting for the people who elected us and stood up for the Labor Party at the last election.
Mr Rudd has made a big deal about the number of women who go into Cabinet and the outer ministry. Is that to make up for, obviously, the backlash to what happened to Ms Gillard?
Look, I don't think so, and I think, commentators are making those sort of statements. I think what he's done is put people in the positions that they are best suited to. I've been a regional member of parliament for 12 years. I've been parliamentary secretary for health and ageing. I've also been parlsec for regional development and then more latterly minister for regional services. Putting me in the regional Australia portfolio actually makes very good sense because of the experience and my advocacy for regions. And I think if you look across the board, that's pretty much what he's done. That being said, I'm delighted there's more women in Cabinet. I think we bring strong voices to the table, and I think it's up to all of us to make sure those voices are heard. But,
Minister, you can understand so many people out there being cynical about this because obviously there was a lot of heartache about what went on last week, and there was a lot of backstabbing, and this can be seen, and readily seen, to be way beyond a coincidence that all these capable women have been elevated to Cabinet, and it's more a chance of political opportunism here.
Yeah, well, I think, again, they're your words, and I think that
they are.
They are your words, and I don't have that view. As someone, and I'm on the record, I supported Prime Minister Julia Gillard and was proud to have done so. And I think she has done an amazing job, and I think we'll go on to some pretty terrific things, and there'll be lots of discussion about that. Equally, I know, having worked previously for Prime Minister Rudd, that he brings enormous capacity to the table too. What I am pleased with is that we are putting a line under this. This has gone on for too long. People who elected me in all of the elections, but in 2010 in particular, elected me to represent my seat and to actually try and make things better for people. Now, we've been beavering away trying to do that, but we've spent an enormous amount of time also infighting and talking about ourselves. And I think everybody is sick of that, and we want to actually work really hard to make sure that we continue the good policy work for our regions and for the nation. Now, I think that having more women in Cabinet is something that a lot of women, and myself included, have been fighting for a long period of time. I think having those voices at the table is a really good thing, and people can draw their own conclusions from that, but I think it's a pretty exciting time for women to have this many women in Cabinet positions, but also as ministers as well. And I hope what it does do is sends a very clear signal that this is about merit. It's also about the ability for women to, do anything that they want to do. There's a lot of gutsy people around our caucus, and I'm pretty proud to be serving with them.
Okay, well, speaking of gutsy people, there were a number of ministers, Conroy, Emerson, a whole lot of others, who said, out of principle, we are Gillard people, so we will not serve under Mr Rudd. A lot of people have mentioned that none of the female cabinet ministers, particularly those who were so vocal about misogyny and the attacks against Ms Gillard, none of them stood there and put their hands up and said, well, I'm a Gillard person, I can't serve under Mr Rudd. That, to me, I just find that difficult to cop.
Yeah, I understand. Look, and I've had I'm going to take issue with this a bit. And I saw the piece in, I think, The Australian by Anne Summers. And Anne Summers is someone I did my social work training. There was, lots of books I read by Anne Summers. I've met Anne Summers a few times, and I have a great deal of respect. But I also think what you have to understand in these circumstances is these are very individual decisions. I respect that some of my previously ministerial colleagues have taken the decision decision not to stand. They've also taken the decision not to recontest the election, and again, they are for deeply personal reasons. So I think to single any one gender out and say, oh, all the women haven't or whatever, I think, perhaps if Nicola Roxon had have been in the ministry, I think, she would have taken a different decision as well. These are very individual decisions.
But Minister, you can understand...
for all of us to do that.
I understand it's a personal decision, but, I mean, it got so nasty and it got so vicious, and they were so vehement in their defence of her on all the sexism allegations, and yet for not one to actually stand up there and say, well, I'm going with her, I'm standing with her to the end.
Well, I think that's
really surprised me.
Yeah, well, I think that's a nonsense, and I think Eva Cox has come out again, someone who I have a great deal of admiration for, and very clearly said, you want women in cabinet positions, you want women to be able to put themselves forward in political life, and they have to make, as we all do, decisions on what is best for their electorates, best for them and best for their families. And you trust women to make those decisions. And I think out of respect to all of my female colleagues, I would very, very strongly say to you, women make those decisions on an individual basis, as have all of my other colleagues. And to look at it as a gendered argument, I think is missing the point.
OK, Minister, we do have to let you go. Catherine King, the new Minister in the Cabinet for Regional Australia, we appreciate your time and enjoy your first Cabinet meeting. It's going to be interesting.
It's good to talk to you, Nick.